Joining me now
Let's go.
on the Knicks Film School Podcast. Oh, God. I can't even get the goddamn intro out.
Let's go.
Oh, that's nice.
Let's go.
He is holding up a Patrick Ewing card to the camera. If you're listening to this on the podcast, you can't see it, but you're missing out.
Let's go.
He's an Emmy winner.
Let's go.
He has a signed poster of John Starks the Dunk in his podcast studio. I don't think this is his first podcast. I think Time Magazine may have mentioned a podcast he may have done at some point in the past as being better than bad, which the Knicks coincidentally are right now. He has spoken at MIT Sloan. He is the host and executive producer for Crooked Media. He is the Blog Boys, like, idealized fantasy. Maybe it could be me.
Let's go.
Because Jason Concepcion fucking did it.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Doing?
I'm
It's
doing
never
great. I'm feeling great. I'm feeling good about the Knicks, and for the first time in a long time, it's a joy to watch them play. Are there a few quibbles about things? Sure, but overall, we're winning. It feels good. We're going to be in the playoffs probably. It's just great. It's a fantastic time to be a Knicks fan.
Is it okay to feel this good? Because I feel great, and I don't feel bad about feeling great.
I don't feel bad about it. We've been through enough. We've been through enough grief and pain. We're watching a good team. We've got a coach who is maximizing the talent that's on the team. Julius Randle is playing magnificent. We've got a nice, really promising rookie, and not the one we thought we had.
I was waiting for it.
So that, by the way, fills a need that that's just been a vacant hole for a while, which is some kind of playmaker in the backcourt. It's great. It's wonderful to be a Knicks fan right now.
It is, and I've been spending a lot of time thinking about like what this year represents for those of us who have been through the thick and thin. And honestly, I'm having trouble figuring out what my favorite part is. If it's the hope, like legit, there's real hope.
Yeah, there's real hope.
That
feels good.
The future might not suck, but the present is also good.
Yeah, I think my favorite part of it is just having, looking at the moves, looking at the things that are happening, even if I happen to disagree with certain things in the moment, and feeling like there's a cohesive plan, they're sticking to it. The Leon Rose regime is managing to strike this balance between building and competing, and is really pulling it off in a real way. It's like, obviously Thibs and his coaching staff, they want to win games. At the same time, you don't want to chase bad deals to do that. And Leon Rose is managing to do that. They're doing that.
Here's what I wonder. Does Leon Rose have some kind of container in his backyard where he keeps birdseed? And does he have $100,000 buried back there? Does he have a couple of stacks? He seems to have a command of the room. Would you not? And we've heard him all of one time since he's taken the job. So maybe that's a bit, much for me to say.
Well, listen, we've been through so many regimes where guys GMs and various execs either spoke too much or didn't speak at all. And the through line through all those teams was a mess on the court, a mess in terms of the various moves being made. This time, it feels cohesive. It feels good. It feels like there's a real command of the levers that go into building a team.
Yeah.
It feels like there's a real understanding of throughout the organization of what the team wants to do. They don't want to get caught in bad deals. They want to acquire assets when they can. They want to use their cap space strategically. They're not going to make moves just to make moves.
Weaponize it like that sword on your wall. That is the Knicks cap space right now. They're wielding.
You know, it's available here. If anybody wants to park a bad deal here to part with some first round picks, we're available. We're open,
Ready?
but we're not just going to burn it, you know, on some washed up vet or a vet on the back end of their peak to just chase wins. They're not going to do that. And that is great. That's great. And sorry to cut you off. And then the concern that we had about Rose coming in was, just don't take minutes from Quickley. And that's not happening.
No,
that's decidedly not happening. So all in all, I'm feeling good.
Well, let's talk about Quickley for a sec. You, once upon a time, co-authored a book about a young man by the name of Jeremy Lin, who 10 years ago, hold on, we have to go back because I remember that day like it was yesterday. I saw that game-winning shot in a bar on a date with a girl who didn't think it was a date, and I did, and that sucked for me. Yeah, it was just, listen, this happens sometimes. Where were you when that shot went down?
Well, which shot? Which Jeremy Lin
Toronto.
shot?
The Jeremy Lin Toronto.
I was sitting in front of my TV just screaming. I mean, it didn't feel real.
No,
it didn't feel like. I remember watching it go up and thinking, "Oh man, is that going to go in? Did that go in? Is this really happening?" It was just absolutely incredible, and that was the rocket ship. Yeah, the strutting back, back to his teammates.
Ugh.
Look on his face. I mean, it just was unbelievable. What an unbelievable feeling that was. Just like hitting the lottery, like a scratch off, like scratching all the numbers off and realizing you just won $1 million. It felt great.
Well, speaking of $1 million, so he was undrafted. IQ was the 25th pick, so not quite the same. But this feels like a real thing. This kid, right?
Oh, yeah,
like you've watched more NBA basketball than anyone.
Well, I wouldn't go that far. I've watched a lot of NBA basketball.
A lot of NBA basketball,
and I've watched a lot of Knicks basketball, and it does feel real. Because there were certain things, first of all, that really carried over from some of his college stuff, which is the ability to get to the line, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Such as like a huge weapon to have that. It just feels there's a real canniness. Like, okay, since we started with Linsanity, even when it was happening, it felt a little fluky, right? It felt fluky. He can only go right.
He was gonna drop.
Yeah, he could only go right. People didn't seem to know it yet. And that's fine. But Quickley's got some real weapons. The floater is a real weapon. Yeah. He's got that that very intelligent kind of herky jerk ability to come off the pick and roll and then stop and wait to see if his defender is going to run over his back and draw that foul. And that's all just real student of the game craft stuff. You can't teach it. He's got a great feel, and it's just a joy to watch him play. It's just wonderful to watch him play. And the point to the on-offs are screaming, "This kid is a good player." The advanced numbers are wonderful. It's just great that we have him.
But thankfully, we have Elfrid Payton in the starting lineup, because without that, obviously, Quickley would not be looking as good. So really, we owe Tibbs a debt of gratitude, because it's big time for Tibbs to make it, bring the kid and bring him up a level by starting.
Absolutely, let him feast on some weaker lineups.
Yeah,
and I know, listen. We're screaming for him to start. There are fans that are screaming for him to start. I have screamed at different times for him to start. He keeps playing like this. He will absolutely start, but let him get his, it's rare for rookies to look good, and he looks good. And so let him continue to feast on these bench lineups. And obviously it's working.
You, are you surprised by what Tibbs is doing?
I don't know if I should. No, not really, because he's doing the things he's always done, right? He He's finding a core rotation of guys that he's going to play a fucking lot, and he's letting him do that. He is giving his trust to, guys like Elfrid Payton, who is repaying that by playing really, really hard. He's telling his guys, play defense and pass the ball, and you will play a lot of minutes. And guys are maxing out his talent for that. The numbers, going back to Minnesota, going back to Chicago, he's always gotten the most of the talent that he's had. You think about guys like DJ Augustin having career years, Nate Robinson, having career years under him. And that's because he's if you play hard and you play defense, you will play. And so he's doing that now. I guess, the things, when you look at Julius Randle leading the league in minutes, the minutes that RJ is playing, the minutes that the starting lineup is playing in general, is that a concern right now? Not really, but it's the thing that Thibs is known for. So in that sense, he's not surprising any of us. He's doing the thing that he's done since he's been a head coach in the league, and it's paying off. We're reaping the benefits.
You mentioned Mr. Randle. I've been beating the All-Star drum, and here's the thing. I don't feel like I'm being the blue and orange pom-poms guy by beating the drum. I feel like I am doing God's work by bringing attention to this man who is doing. Listen, there's not a lot of guys 6'8", throughout the history of the NBA that are averaging 5 assists a game. Are you on the Kool-Aid scale? Are you at okay, how soon can we sign him to a max? Are you like,
oh wow, that's it. I mean, it's a good question, right? It's a fascinating question. 22, 11, and 6. Those are insane numbers, right?
Decent efficiency, not crazy.
Not great efficiency, but good enough, right? A little, and he's fallen off a little bit in the efficiency in the recent weeks. I think to sign him to a max, it's okay, what's the number? What is the number? I am not against it. Here's what's great about this year for the Knicks. We can just let it play out and make a decision at the end of the year, right? Because there are a lot of there's a lot of, I'm certainly not against signing him, but there are a lot of weird variables this year. It's a contract year for him, number one. Number two, he's leading the league in minutes, right? Number three, COVID, strange scheduling, lot of weird results happening. We got 2 centers in the MVP race. Utah is the best team in the league. A lot of other kind of strange variables are popping up here and there, weird results. How much can you really buy into Julius's numbers? I'm a believer in that he can continue to do this, but obviously, again, the minutes thing. Let's let it play out and then make a decision at the end of the year. Why rush it right now? I think that's a great place to be. And if you can get him for the number that you want, sure, extend him. Why not? He's in the age range that is workable with the rest of your young pieces. So 26? I'm not against it, but I think no rush. Let's see what happens over the rest of the season.
I like that approach. I'm gonna give you 4 names.
Mm-hmm.
Because we can't live in the moment. We're Knicks fans. It's not possible.
Of course.
Okay. Sure. Just random names. Kawhi Leonard, Bradley Beal, Karl Anthony Towns, Devin Booker. Do you think any of those 4 names will ever play a game for the New York Knicks before they're 40?
I could see maybe Beal as a first step to the rest of those names. I think when you look at Kawhi, for instance, I think that he's shown that he'll go to a team if he feels like they can lock down another star.
Yeah.
Beal obviously is fascinated with remaining of being the kind of player who stays in one place for a long time. but I feel like at some point they're just such a dog shit fucking team. Like they are so hard to watch. Russ is deteriorating before our eyes in a really sad way. It's absolutely really sad to watch him play sometimes now. Defensively, they're an absolute disaster, and I say that as a person who's watched so many defensively disastrous teams. And Kamiya is on Twitter after every game being like, "Get him out!" Like, what? This can't continue. And so I feel like at some point, it's not what you want. And at some point, push will come to shove, and he'll be like, "All right, get me out of here." So I feel like that's a possibility. Who else did you say? Sorry, Kawhi.
Again, randomly. Kawhi, you mentioned Karl-Anthony Towns and Devin Booker are the other two. And if you got anybody else to throw in the conversation, I just, this is me spitballing.
Karl, it would be a homecoming for him, which I think would be wonderful. And I think there's some possibility there, but I think Beal is the one who, obviously there's a lot of teams hunting for a Beal trade right now, but I would say Beal, since he so obviously seems like he could move soon, would be the one that I'd think could go. Devin Booker.
I can't get a read on that situation. Can you? Do you think he likes being there now? I don't know. Here's
the thing. They're playing well. What are they? 15 and 9, 14 and 9, something like that. Fourth in the East, fourth in the West. At the same time, when you watch them play, it's not like there's this weird, amazing chemistry between him and Chris Paul. It's hard to know really what the situation is there. I feel like I don't feel like Phoenix is eager to let go of him. And
that's fair.
I just don't see him. I don't see him moving anytime soon. So I would say in the order that you gave me, Beal, Cat, Kawhi, Devin Booker. Like if we could land Beal, then maybe, something could happen with Kawhi. But again, with Kawhi, it just feels like he's only going to places where they're going to lock down that other star.
Got to get Uncle Dennis. Got to get Uncle Dennis. Uncle Dennis has all the.
Hey, do you want to swing some real estate deals? Like, what do you need to happen, Uncle D? Like, we can. Do you want to? Like, yeah. what do you need? Let us know. Maybe
we know people.
We know people.
Actually, that's a couple more that we're gonna get you out of here because I know God knows you're a busy man. You just appeared in the article that Howard Beck wrote, which, by the way, Howard, if you're listening to this, I'm insulted that I was not asked to participate in that exercise. This fan base is unlike any other. If we are, let's fast forward 3.5, whatever it is, months from now. Let's say we're the 6th seed. Let's say we're going up against who do we want to face?
Let's see.
Fuck around and say Brooklyn?
That would be fucking incredible, wouldn't it?
Let's say we're amazing. It's fine. Let's make it Brooklyn. We're 2-2. It's been 4 competitive games.
I like it. Honestly, that could happen right now. It's in the cards for this season. It's in the cards for this season.
But that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
The Knick fan, like, we have the best fan base in sports. It's the biggest fan base in sports. It's the most well, like, could you imagine what this fan base is going to be like if that happens? I can't. Everybody's gonna be coming out of the woodwork.
Yeah, I miss that feeling, of being in the mix, of being in the playoffs. It will be truly amazing. And this is a story I've told a million times, but like, there's a different feel to New York when the Knicks are relevant. When the Lin thing was happening, I remember I was working in Manhattan, and I didn't want to miss the beginning of the game, so I took a cab all the way to Brooklyn where I lived, and we were playing the Heat, and that was, of course, the game where Jeremy got exposed. But be that as may, I was coming down the BQE, and I remember looking up at the various apartment buildings as I'm going by, and you could see TVs all along the way tuned to MSG and people waiting for the game, and there's just there's a vibe. I can't wait to feel that. It'll be fun. Hopefully, once we get the vaccine rollout and there's people in the garden's going to be rocking. I was thinking the other day, especially, once the Rose deal was announced, imagine what it would have. imagine some of those games in the Garden when Thibs either pulls quickly too soon.
Oh my God.
Or like, or Alfred is in the game and it's Austin Rivers and people are chanting, "We want Quickley." Like, I miss shit like that. I miss shit like that.
That's better than "We want." No offense, I know he was a big contributor to NBA Desktop. That's better than "We want fucking Cantor." Okay.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's like, which was ridiculous anyway.
Exactly. My point.
Yeah, absolutely. Or even like one of my favorite chants of all time, early 2000s. After Keith Van Horn was traded, Keith Van Horn, like chanting because we missed Keith Van Horn. That's the place that we've come from. Those like
missing Keith Van Horn,
the dark forest that we are just now hopefully emerging from. I can't wait until we get that energy. And I think we're going to listen. If things continue like this, health, obviously a concern, minutes a concern. But if things continue the way they seem to be trending right now, we'll be in the postseason this year. And it's just going to be fantastic to see.
Last one, I'm going to let you go mercifully before because I could nerd out with you for the next hour because, I mean, binge mode and everything. We get to Marvel for hours. I mean, literally.
Yeah, let's do it. What do you want to talk about, Marvel? We can talk about it for a second.
I texted you the other day. You literally have revolutionized content creation.
Oh, thanks. That's really nice.
Look, I know you don't want to hear it, but I'm going to say it anyway. Did it hit you at some point? This is the thing I had to ask. Did it hit you at some point being like, holy shit, I'm doing some real shit and it's good stuff. And I'm making I am influencing how media happens. I don't know what the right verb is, but does there come a moment where you're, and I'm just being honest with you, because this is what I wonder, because you have made it, my friend.
It's interesting. I mean, there's a moment where, everybody works hard, right? You work hard on this podcast. You work hard on your newsletter, which is, please listen. I'm sure everybody listening to this receives the newsletter, but please receive it, sign up for it and read it. Everybody that's out there, whether it works hard. And so there's no guarantee that people will like your shit, even as much sweat and effort as you put into it. There's no guarantee that will happen. There's people out here, slaving over their keyboards to write blog posts that are insightful and great and funny and reveal stuff about the way teams work and players play, and that maybe don't get the pop that they should. Like there's Reddit threads that you could tell that people put a ton of work into that don't necessarily get the attention they deserve. So when binge mode took off and people really started listening to it, it felt great because you never expect it. I don't go in. I just try to do fun, interesting stuff and work as hard as I can. And if people pay attention to it, it's really amazing. So it when that popped off and when people started really liking desktop, it felt good because, we put a lot of work into it like anybody else, and that people would pay attention to it felt great. To a certain extent, I still feel like every single thing that I make, you feel like you're starting from ground zero. I'm sure you feel like that when you write the newsletter.
I was really hoping you'd say something different, because I was like, one day I just want to wake up and be like, that's it, I figured it out, I got it.
No, it never it truly never. It never happens. Every time I write something, and then I send it out, and then it goes up, I'm like, that feels great. I feel good for a half hour, and then when I have to sit down to the keyboard again, I'm like, how the fuck did I ever do this? I completely forgot how I did it. How did I do it last time? And that's the same with podcasting and everything. It's like, how did I do that? How do you do it again? it really never goes away. But like, if there's one trick I've figured out is like kind of like how to weaponize that. And I think I can tell by, reading, listening to your pod and reading the newsletter that that maybe you figured that out too, which is that kind of feeling of, oh, I don't know how to do this anymore. That just drives me to like, okay, go back to cleaning the glass and research a little harder, or I'll watch that segment of the Marvel movie again, and maybe something will pop up. Like, just like research harder, find that thing that's like the thing that you can put into your work. That's like, oh, they really put the work in, and figure out if that's a way around it. That's a way to like quiet that voice of like, man, I completely forgot how to do any of this shit. So I guess that's a long way of answering your question. And saying I don't feel like I've made it, although clearly like I have a job, which feels good.
You have a fucking Emmy behind you.
I do.
I'm looking at it right now. I can see it. That was a great moment in my life. And you know what? It's getting nominated, first of all, was like unbelievable. That didn't feel real because like we filmed that show like legitimately in a closet at that point in time. So like and then we were up against like MLB and like all like Major League Baseball and like all these other outfits that were pouring millions into like stuff. So like to even be nominated and then to win felt it didn't feel real at the time. And I remember Eric Rydholm, who is the producer of, Pardon the Interruption, and has a bajillion Emmys and has been nominated for a bajillion Emmys. He was very, very nice to me and Jason Gallagher at that Emmy ceremony. And he was like, we were just like asking him, okay, like, what do we do if this happens? What happens after this? Like, and he's like, well, you guys are in a good, he gave us so many tips and was very nice to us. And then when we won, he was like, this is great because even though maybe you don't feel any different, this legitimizes you in the business. Like it's a thing that will go on your resume that even though, like in your heart and in your mind, you don't feel like an Emmy winner or a genius. People will see that next to your name and it'll mean that you're a real person in this business. And that has been the case. That is the biggest thing is, like you walk into a room and people are like, oh, Emmy winner. And even though it's not a reflection of you as a person, it means that you know how to work in this business. So that felt great. Well, that's awesome. Thank you for talking about that a bit.
No problem.
I know there's a lot of people who listen to this who, again, like you said, slave over the keyboard and just try to create good content. And, it's just nice to hear this. I can't let you. Crooked Media, give me something. Give me something to look forward to. You can't give me anything.
Well, I can't. Well, in the coming weeks, we're going to be releasing some trailers and stuff that will announce the things that we're doing.
Okay.
I would just say broadly that like if you like what I've been doing in the past, you will continue to like the stuff that I'm doing in the future. Let's just say
I'll take that. I said all these accolades about you, and I forgot the most important one, which is that you once did a 2-hour and what was it, 15-minute podcast on Thor: The Dark World, or was it 2 hour and I listened to most of it.
Thank you. Theoretically, the worst Marvel movie, but that's just how insane Mal and I get on when we talk about that stuff. I mean, here's the thing. This is one of my theories about just like criticism, I guess, or creating content. The dumber the setup, the harder I will work on it. Like I worked for, I wrote a piece on The Ringer about Paul Pierce. Did he shit his pants or not during the 2008 NBA
They put that in your
finals.
Sloan bio, which I saw a few days ago. I love that, by the way.
Yeah. And that was a piece where it's like, okay, I'm going to chase down every lead. I'm going to kill myself to write this because it's so dumb. It's so funny and stupid. And that's the way I approach it. And it was the same thing with Thor. It's kind of like, when we did Binge Mode Star Wars and we were doing the prequel movies, it was kind of the same thing. It was like the worse the movie, kind of like in a weird way, the more fun it is to talk about it.
But it's inspiring for someone like me who, for a very long time podcasted about a team that was not very good.
Yeah.
And you got to come up with some shit to talk about.
You got to come up with some stuff. You got to talk about something. You got to, you just have to do it. Well, you the thing that that you do on your network so well, and you do when you're talking about is, the thing that, and when people ask me like, how do I make my content good?
Do people ask you that? How do I make my content?
Yeah, people like, people DM me all the time like, hey, I want to be in podcasting, or I want to write, or I want to do this, and I don't have like great advice to give people, but the thing that I always try to hew to is, at least with my stuff, is like, listen, I'm never going to be the best analyst. Zach Lowe is alive. I'm never going to approach him. I'm never going to be, I'm never going to be the cap genius, so what is the thing that I can bring to it that makes it my own? And I think that's what you do too. It's like, listen, people could go anywhere and get the most insightful, smart, like analysis, but they'll come to you if they react to your voice. And that means you have to put yourself into it in some way. Like, what is the version of Knicks fandom that only you experience because of the way
usually with Scotch.
Yeah. But like, well, and that's how you watch Knicks games. That's how obviously it's part of like processing the grief at different times. But so what is the thing that only you can bring to it? And that's just finding your voice. And I think it's like the thing that when I read, your newsletter, it's like it's probably because I listen to the podcast, but I can hear your voice behind it. And so that's the thing that you want to try and do.
All right. Now you're making me blush. So we have to end this interview. Give me a prediction. What's a final record? Playing 72 games. We going above 500? You going, what are we going here? I'm holding you to this. Can't ever escape this. This is going down in permanent ink.
Let's see. I'm going to just quickly look at our stats.
They are here. This is as of right this second. We're recording this on Sunday night, Valentine's Day night. They have outscored their opponents this season by not 1, not 2, but 3 points.
I love it. Okay. I'm going to call us a 500 team.
Wow. Okay.
I'm going to call us a 500. Expected wins right now over 82 is like 41.5 over an 82 game season. I'm going to call us a 500 team.
Go.
And who would have guessed that would have happened? It's great. We can't score at all, but we're an absolutely swirling defensive team, and I love it. I love how hard they're playing on defense. It's really great.
It makes the games fun. Okay, I really am going to let you go. Jason Concepcion, if you don't know where to find Jason Concepcion, I feel really bad for you. Host of Binge Mode, still just the best podcast in the world. Can't wait to see. I mean this. I cannot wait to see what you do with Crooked Media.
Thank you so much.
It's a great marriage. Obviously, you know this. Those guys are awesome. You're awesome. I can't wait to see it.